Hello and welcome to Jill Cameron Creations. I am creating 2 cards for the guys with sparkles. I know it's not supposed to happen, but we're going to do it. I'm using a product from Forte called Kaleidoscope powder. And there is this absolutely gorgeous slimline stamp that is called Dear to Me, and it has a coordinating stencil to go with it. It is a silhouetted stamp. What I'm doing first is I am stamping with some white pigment ink on craft cardstock. This is for the first card. And I'm going to dry this. I'm going to dry the ink completely. I'm just using the towel so that I can slide my hand back and forth. I stamped with this stamp a bunch of times because it has so much solid surface on it in order to make sure that I get really good coverage with the dye ink. We've talked about this before, at least I have over on my channel and on my blog, that when you get a new stamp, especially if it has a lot of surface like a background stamp, you want to make sure that you condition your stamp really well before you stamp with it. Clean it first. Use some embossing ink. The embossing ink from Forte in the Color Hive collection is great to prep your stamp if you're going to stamp with a dye ink. So what you would do is clean your stamp really well, then use the embossing ink on it, wipe it off. Don't clean it, just wipe it off, and then actually use your dye ink on it. It's going to allow the surface of the stamp to hold ink really well. And this is across the board for all kinds of stamps that I use. Even red rubber stamps, I treat them the exact same way to make sure that I get really, really good coverage with my ink on my stamps. I'm cleaning my stamp really well here and just cleaning it up because I'm going to use the embossing ink next. So I dried that pigment ink in with my heat tool. I'm not using that as my base for the Kaleidoscope powder. I am going to be using Aurora Kaleidoscope powder. It has a bit of brown tinge to it, but it also gives a goldy purpley hue when it's in the light. So I stamped with my embossing ink there, and I'm gonna use I'm just using the cloth in order to apply the pressure evenly across the stamp, and I'm using a popsicle stick to hold the edge of my paper down. You can also get the little brush that I'm using here. I'm just picking up a tiny little bit of the powder, putting it in the lid of the container, and then I'm just brushing it over where that embossing ink is, which is the exact same place that the white ink is. I am brushing it over the entire surface of this, even in the places where there is no ink on it, and absolutely beautiful. It's a very, very subtle when you're looking at it straight on, but when you look at it from the side, it is so pretty. And it's just so pretty. I wish video and pictures did this justice, because it is absolutely gorgeous. But this is the Hubble, and it has, like I said, just that tint of brown to it. It's almost a copper color, and it has just you can see right here where the light is hitting it, you can see that it has just that hint of purple to it. It's not glittery, it's just shiny, and it looks, see, isn't that gorgeous? Oh, it is so pretty. I'm also using the big brush just to wipe away all of the excess on this. Now, because of the kind of powder that this is, to make sure that it doesn't rub off on my fingers, I'm taking a light mister and waving it through some water, and that is just going to set that powder so that it doesn't rub off on your fingers or the inside of your envelope. I'm sorry, I have the hiccups. You know, things like that tend to happen sometimes. as you're doing voiceovers, and I just am randomly having the hiccups. I'm so sorry. Now, I'm going to do the kind of reverse of this. I am going to do this on white cardstock, and I'm using a super dark brown ink. This time we're going to actually use the Stencil, and for the blank places in between, I'm able to stamp this twice because I'm using my Misty as for my stamping tool to be able to stamp this twice to make sure that I get really good coverage of this. And this is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Oh, it's so pretty. It is so, so, so pretty. And I still had a couple places down here on the bottom where I didn't get really good coverage, so I went ahead and just stamped it again. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now I'm going to take the stencil and tape it down, and I'm going to use an ink blending tool to blend on the embossing ink in the white spaces between the brown. And that is going to allow me to put Aurora and Kaleidoscope powder in the background of it. Aurora is a little bit more, it's clear, but it has that same sparkle that Hubble has to it, in that it's that brown earthy tone to it, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't have the color to it like the Hubble the Hubble does. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is a little bit more difficult to see than the Hubble is, but the Aurora on this is absolutely gorgeous in person. And this did take a hot minute to do. I just took my ink blending tool and pounced it. I didn't swirl it. I didn't like ink blend it. I pounced it because I wanted to make sure that I had good coverage. I thought about turning the embossing ink pad over and, you know, just dabbing it all the way across it, but I didn't want it on the outside of my stencil. So if I wanted, you know, I didn't want it on the outside of the stencil and the stamped area. I just wanted it in the empty places within the stamp. So I decided that I wouldn't go that route. This, I just pounced it. I just put my ink blending tool, you know, it's a clean one. It was a brand new one, and I just pounced it all over the place. I did turn it here and there, but not much. So this was, when I was doing this one, I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be gorgeous. I did, like I said, I did really condition the stamp before I used it, just because it's so much blank space all over it, open space on the stamp, to make sure that I got really good coverage for the stamp just by cleaning it really well and then using the embossing ink on it and then inking that stamp up and stamping with it a couple times. I cleaned off my brush, as you saw, with just the you can see the glimmer in that, but I cleaned the brush off just with a dry cloth. It wasn't wet or anything. I just cleaned it off by rubbing it back and forth a couple times. And I am putting this Aurora in the white spaces, and then I'm going to use that same big brush that I used before, which is available on Maker Forte's website in the shop, along with these tiny little brushes. Absolutely perfect for this. And I'm going to also wave this in a light water mist and set it aside to dry for just a few minutes before I actually finish off the card. I'm just going back and forth over this, and absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful. Look at that shimmer. Oh my goodness. It is so pretty. So pretty. Heart be still. And I thought this was a really good way to have a card that is masculine, but at the same time it's very subtle in its shimmer and adds just a little bit more to the card. Guys will appreciate just that subtle shimmer to it, and they'll go, because, you know, guys like how things work. They'll be like, how in the world did you do that? They won't care that it's shiny. They'll care how you made it shiny, which is absolutely fantastically funny to me. So that's one thing that I really like about including the unexpected on guys' cards, because they will totally appreciate the mechanics of it and how you did it more than they're gonna fuss that it's glittery or shiny. They're not really going to care about that. They're going to care that you took the time to make them a card, and they're going to care that you took the time to add something unexpected to it, and they're going to want to know how you did it. So you'll be able to tell them it was really fun. So I trimmed down each of the stamped panels, and then I created top folding slimline cards that are 8.5 by 4.25 finished size, and I scored those. And I'm just gluing these flat down. Of course, you could add some foam tape to these. You could add whatever embellishments you wanted for this, and I just kept them very simple. I did pull out a different stamp set that is Christmas themed, but it was the Oh What Fun, and I used one of the sentiments from that. That's Warm Winter Wishes, and I used the same exact stamp on both of the cards. One I did in white pigment ink, and the other one I did in the coordinating brown. Absolutely gorgeous cards. I love these. Go get you some of that Kaleidoscope powder from the Maker Forte shop. It is so pretty. It is so pretty. She's got a bunch of different colors. You see that bright pink one that's over to the left over there? My desk is full of stuff that I am, including a little sneak peek of next month's stamp set over there on the left. My desk is full of stuff that I have been playing with, and that pink actually glows in the dark. And there is a green and another color that glow in the dark. That glow in the dark, y'all. Absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to play with that too and see what we can make glow in the dark. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to head over to the Maker Forte shop and get your Dear to Me stamp and stencil, and also pick up your Kaleidoscope powders. They are so much fun in a bunch of different colors. Oh my goodness, in a bunch of different colors. She's got so many things over there in the shop that's absolutely gorgeous. So don't forget to head over and check it out. Of course, I'll have the links below. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss a single video. And thanks so much for joining me today. Y'all have an amazing day.